Well, there's certainly a few book launches going on at the moment in the run-up to Christmas. With me is Richard. We're down here on the piers because we have a very particular reason, Richard, for your latest book, because the front cover matches up, doesn't it?
Yes, the front cover is almost identical to what we have here, except this one was taken about 1880, hopefully on a slightly warmer day than we're experiencing today.
People love them. I mean, I love those sort of things. And the Isle of Man just lends itself to so many things don't change, and other things obviously do massively. But people love looking back. Nostalgia is in, isn't it?
Oh, very much so. If anything, this book, I would say, is probably a record of how much things have changed rather than how much they stay the same. Because these are basically from around about 1860 something up to around about 1948, 49. But mostly they're earlier views. They're mostly late 1800s, early 1900s. So there are a lot of changes.
Where do you get the pictures from?
These are nearly all from the keg collection. There are one or two that are not, but the 90+% I would say are from the keg archives, which of course was established 1860. So there are some good old ones amongst these.
So there's a rich vein there to tap, is there?
There is, but they're nearly all from the Douglas area. You've got to remember that in those days there wasn't much in the way of public transport. If you wanted to go to, say, Ramsey to take a few photographs, it's like a 2-day trip, you know. Either that or you go on the boat.
Well, this is volume 2. Did you start with that intention to do various volumes, or just it's been so successful you just had to bring out more?
Not really. I just basically had too many photographs to get in one book, and indeed we've still got too many photographs. Because this last lot, I've scanned a whole load of the keg collection. I've used probably 120 or so in this book, and there are probably another 600 or 700, and that's not counting the motorcycle racing, the car racing, and all sorts of other things that kegs were into.
Well, we're seeing some great examples here of what's there, and the quality looks great as well.
The quality looks great now. It wasn't that way to start with. I've spent the last 10 months working on this, a lot of which has been scanning the negatives and correcting the blemishes, because these things, most of them, started out as glass plate negatives, which most people won't recognise the term these days. I mean, if anybody remembers using film at all, it would be 35mm, probably colour film on a cassette. These things go back to the days when negatives were on glass sheets, some of which were almost the size of an A4 sheet of paper. And in that, fine, you get a lot of detail, but if you get a few scratches, you also get an awful lot of damage to correct. And these things were all in boxes, one on top of another, nothing between the glass sheets, and of course the emulsion film on the back of them is very, very delicate, so ever so easy to scratch. So I've been doing a lot of photoshopping.
Yeah, great term, yes, and it's just putting it back to its original state, really. Then.
That's right, yes. In some cases, perhaps better than the original state, because you've got to bear in mind that with a negative, you can only do so much in the normal photo processing. Some of the ones that you might look at nowadays and say, well, that's all right. Years ago, it probably would have been thrown out because they couldn't have used it in the normal photo works. Like when you get it in the dark room, what can you do with it if it's got a big scratch through it? Not much.
Well, it's a great book, and where can people get it?
More or less any good bookshop around the island. Lily Publications, of course, are the distributors of it, but more or less any decent bookshop around the island will have it.
And when will we get the next volume then?
Well, I remember Miles, the guy at Lily Publications, asking me when he could have another one, and in fact he said, is there any chance of another 2? I said, well, let's see how we get on with 1 first, and as I say, this one's taken me 10 months to do, so who knows. The one thing I will say is that having scanned the bulk of the negatives, it would be a whole lot easier to put another book together, because that's the worst of it. Actually assembling the book is not so bad, and I've had some help with this one from Peter Kelly and Stan Basnett and Charles Gard, well-known local historians. So although I've assembled it, it's not all my own work. I haven't taken a single one of the pictures, and at least half of the text is somebody else's words, so You know, credit where it's due.
But you're a whiz on Photoshop, right?
I do pretty well with Photoshop, but I have to say it's really a demanding job to do. It's a pixel by pixel thing. It's not something you just press a button and all the blemishes disappear. It doesn't work like that. Not on the version I've got anyway, let's put it like that.